The very first question in most college or job interviews is, who are you? So what do you say when someone asks you to tell them about yourself? Similarly, one of the most important parts of a college admissions application is the personal essay. How do you respond when a college asks you what your goals are and how their program will help you get there? Today's workshop is about telling your story. When you can tell your story effectively, you're better able to land that dream job, nail that college admissions essay, and rally the support of those around you. Storytelling is a critical skill that will contribute to your success. In this workshop, you're going to learn 3 tried and true tips for great storytelling. Tip 1. Tell stories. This might seem kind of obvious, but the first tip for great storytelling is to share stories. People tend to assume that facts and statistics are the best way to convince people to do something, but all the research shows that stories are a more powerful way to move people to action. Let me give you an example. On my resume, I have a line that says, creator of NOLA beings. What does that tell you about me? Not much. But what if I were to turn it into a story? I was feeling isolated in New Orleans because I didn't interact with many people outside my friend group. So one day I decided to start using my love of photography as an excuse to talk to strangers. Each day, I'd interview at least one person on the street and then post a quote and photograph of them on my blog, NOLA Beings. In the past year, I've interviewed over 500 people and have built an audience of over 20,000 followers. And in the process, I've begun to feel more connected to my city because I've listened to the perspectives of people from many walks of life. While the first statement is factually accurate, it isn't very memorable. The second statement has a lot more emotional impact because it's a story. Great, so let's jump right in. To start, break into pairs and take turns interviewing one another, asking, what is the story that brought you to ServiceWorks? You'll each get 3 minutes to share. Tip 2, problem, action, result. The second storytelling tip is problem, action, result, or PAR. Problem, action, result is a super simple formula for a good story. The problem is the challenge confronting you. The problem shows something you want but don't have. And it also shows something is at stake and gets your audience rooting for your success. Action is the action you took or the role that you played in helping to solve the problem. It tells the audience what steps you took to make change. The result is what changed because of your action. Highlight how you resolved the problem and what you learned in the process. PAR works as a story structure because it focuses on change. If nothing changes in your story, then it's a bit like saying, I went to class and nothing happened, and then I went home. Not very interesting. When change happens, however, stories begin to grab our attention. Listen for change in the following example. One of the most difficult times in my life was my freshman year of college. My mom was having some health problems back home and I was having trouble focusing in my classes. This wasn't normal for me. My social life wasn't great in high school, but at least I'd been a good student. I reached out to a mentor of mine, someone who'd advocated for me back when I decided to apply for college in the first place. We met up and I told her what I was going through. Looking back, that meeting was the turning point in my year. My mentor gave me some advice, sure, but mostly she just listened. And it was exactly what I needed. I was going through a lot, and the experience with my mentor taught me how much it could help to talk through my struggles with someone who cares. So you see how the character in that story grew? That change makes the story interesting. Great, so let's put this into practice. Take a minute to brainstorm around a new question. What is the hardest challenge you've ever overcome? Make a list of a handful of different challenges you've overcome and then choose one. These can be large challenges or small ones. Next, you're going to break into small groups and try telling that story using the problem, action, result framework. Like last time, you'll each get 3 minutes to share. Tip 3, be real. The third storytelling tip is to be real and honest about who you are. We all want to be perceived positively, and it's tempting to tell stories that portray ourselves in the most flattering light. Unfortunately, I am epically awesome stories are super boring and can seem like bragging. Stories get a lot more interesting when we show our flaws and reveal our imperfect humanity. Being vulnerable to others might feel at first like you're weak. In reality, it demonstrates a lot of courage and makes you, the storyteller, much more relatable. Think about Superman. Not only does Superman have superhuman strength and the ability to fly and shoot lasers out of his eyes, but he's also invincible, literally without vulnerability. This sets Superman up to be a bit of a dull character because he's just too powerful. Thankfully for the Superman story, there's kryptonite. Kryptonite makes Superman a more real and vulnerable character. It allows for real plot tension and adversity. It allows for us to relate to Superman as someone who struggles with challenges, just like us. Let's try making your characters more real and vulnerable. Take a moment to look at the hardest challenge story that you told previously, but this time think about how you can be honest and real about your own kryptonite. Take a minute to brainstorm, and then break into a new group of 3 to share your story. Today we covered 3 tips to powerfully telling your story. The first tip is to tell stories. It might be tempting to share facts and figures about yourself, but nothing is more compelling than a good story that lets other people understand who we are at a deeper level. The second tip is to use the PAR framework. Lay out the problem you faced, the action that you took, and the result. The third and final tip is to be real. Being honest about your own struggles or weaknesses can go a long way towards making your story relatable. Powerful storytelling can change your life. It helps in interviews and admissions essays, but also in other areas like leadership and networking. Growing as a storyteller is a lifetime journey. The more you practice storytelling, including the tips we've shared today, the more naturally it will come. As you share stories of the challenging, interesting, and beautiful moments that have shaped your life, colleges, job interviewers, and your peers and mentors will swoon because they will better understand who you are, what you are passionate about, and how they can support you along the way.